These three areas, quality issues, long delivery delays, and long product development, are the three things that you may want to discuss if you're going after a strategic bucket of pain with your prospect or your client. Good morning, Sales Ascender. What's happening? Sean here with another high ticket tutorial. Can you believe this? Yeah! I'm so excited today. Happy day. It is Taco Tuesday. How can you not love Taco Tuesday? Drop in a comment below. What are you eating in your tacos today? If you're eating tacos, because some people don't eat them. I love them. I think we're going to have fish tacos again tonight. I love fish tacos. I found this new spice, which is delicious. You're probably going to love it if you eat tacos and like spicy food. So yes, I do. Let's just jump right into it though today for the high ticket tune-up that's coming up. Ron asked a doozy of a question. Here it is. Ron says this. He says, Sean, how do I dig into pain? You know, if you've been listening to me for any period of time, you'd understand that like the only thing that I really focus on whenever I get into a sales conversation is digging into pain. And there's three levels of pain. You have a business indicator, you have a business impact, and then you dive into this personal impact space. And so I always harp on that. But today I wanted to get a little bit bigger picture and not quite as granular as that. And of course, we have techniques of going through once you've found the business indicator to get it to business impact and then the personal impact. But today, what I wanted to share was literally the three buckets of where most people fall into pain. So like there's these three buckets that we have to talk about. And the first one is the financial pain bucket. The second one is the strategic pain bucket. And then the third one, again, is that personal pain bucket. So again, it goes business indicator, business impact, personal impact. So that's the levels of pain that you can actually pull out of a prospect when you're speaking with them. And once you know those three things, it becomes fairly fun to have about every single sales conversation. So I'm going to share my screen real quick with you. I just want to bring up the first one. So let's talk about financial pain. I think financial pain is interesting, right? So this is the one that's the most visible, right? So if you're speaking with a prospect and you know that you can help them with financial pain, you can ease the pain financially for them, this is going to be an awesome place to start, literally because it's the most measurable, it's the easiest to measure, and it deals with things like loss of revenue, low profitability, or even, a bad return on investment you can see here. And so here's the areas you can use to get into financial pain. What I wanted to share today is literally the fear motivator, right? So the primal brain is the secret to unlocking a lot of sales. When you can communicate directly with the primal brain, you could unlock a lot of sales for yourself. So the first area, if you're talking to a prospect about financial pain, because that's the problem that you actually solve for them, one of the areas that you want to discuss is lack of funds, right? Because if you can get into, hey, well, like, tell me, how are you living on a cash flow day-to-day basis? And they're going to say, oh, it sucks. Guess what? You just found a business indicator, and now you can take them down into business impact and then into even personal impact. This particular area hits on the fear of just not having enough. This is one of the cognitive biases that are out there. If you do or don't know, there's 188 total cognitive biases. This one digs into the fear of not having enough. And this one hits a lot of people really, really hard. And again, it's the most easy to measure and it's the most easy to see. And so if you know that this is the most easy to measure and the most easy to see, then this is going to become something that you may want to discuss in any conversation that you have sales-wise. Second one is the low return on investment, right? So lack of funds is something personal, like, hey, I don't have enough money to do whatever. Return on investment is literally like, yo, I made an investment in this particular product, service, or whatever, and I haven't seen the return come from this thing. And this literally comes from the primal brain cognitive bias of fear of losing what we already have. And so this area, again, is another really, really powerful topic to speak about when you're in the sales conversation. If you're trying to go after financial pain, because that's one of the problems that you solve for people, I would highly encourage you just look at these two areas: lack of funds. So ask them personally, like, hey, how's your cash flow situation at home? Like a question like that will hit really hard with them. And if this is a true pain for them, they say, yeah, well, like it sucks. And then all of a sudden now, if you remember the magic 8 questions that we share all the time, you can just dive through that. Secondly, the low return on investment, another area. Let's move on to the next one. The next pain is the strategic pain. Okay. So the strategic pain it affects key business risks that can compromise development, manufacturing, marketing, or delivery. So I'll just highlight that here so you can see this very, very simply, right? So the second bucket, the first bucket is what we talked about is the financial because it's the most easy to measure. The second bucket is the strategic bucket. And diving into this, again, if you solve any areas around development of new product or manufacturing, or even if you solve a marketing issue, this is where a lot of agencies would fall into, or delivery of service. If these are the pains that you actually dig in and solve, there's really kind of three areas that you may want to dive into when you're doing some questioning in your initial connections or sales conversations that you're having. So the first area is going to be into quality issues. This one hits the cognitive bias of the fear of not knowing enough, right? So if you're saying, well, hey, how is the quality of whatever working for you? Then that person could say, oh, well, it's this or that or that. And you say, that's interesting. Tell me more is the first of the magic 8 questions that we always talk about. Secondly, so the fear of not knowing enough. So like imagine for a second, like you just don't know enough to know whether or not you have quality issues. That's one issue. If you don't know enough of like, hey, I need it to be better quality, but I don't know how it could become better quality, that's another part of it. And so these are areas that go into and use questioning is a super powerful technique. And literally, again, if you are the person that solves the strategic pain for your prospect or your client, this is one of those areas that you want to discuss with them. The second area is going to be the long delivery delays. Of course, this would be if you're actually shipping a physical product to somebody or you're serving them with some sort of a service. Like if you are not getting them the deliverables on a timely basis, they're going to be upset, right? And so if you're speaking with a prospect or a client, asking them around like, hey, are they on time? Did they deliver the stuff that they said they were going to do when they said they were going to do it? Very easy conversation to get into. And you can say, actually, no, they're not. Oh man, tell me more about that. Right into those magic 8 questions, and you can take them all the way down into that personal impact around strategic pain and literally close a deal that fast. Pretty easy. This one hits on the cognitive bias of fear of not having control. They don't have control over when they're going to get a product or service or anything delivered to them. Last one would be just long product development. Again, if you're in that place where you help people develop their products or services, it's similar to the same cognitive bias of fear of not having control. Again, these 3 areas, quality issues, long delivery delays, and long product development are the 3 things that you may want to discuss if you're going after a strategic bucket of pain with your prospect or your client. Let's move on to the very last one here. And you could see this one is personal pain. Personal pain is the negative feelings and emotions affecting those in the buying process, in the decision-making process, right? And there's a couple of areas where you can really dig really hard, really fast to get into this level of pain for people. The first one is the poor attitude, right? This one is something that's so easy to determine when you're having a sales conversation. You might be speaking with an entrepreneur who has other people on their team, and they're like, man, I just can't get along with Sally. She just always comes in with this like cloud over her head. Oh man, that could be a personal pain. So this particular bucket of pain is going to speak to those people who do a lot of cognitive development for people, the mindset training, the mindset coaching, like the confidence level, right? So this is an area, poor attitude of either the person you're speaking with or somebody on their team is a great place to start plugging in and asking a bunch of questions around this particular topic here, because you can tie into a pain that they want to solve fairly quickly. And again, this cognitive bias is the fear of powerlessness. Second one is high stress. If you see people pulling their hair out, or, they're just, oh man, it's so hard. I don't know how to do it. I don't know where I'm going to get. You know what stress is. You've probably felt stress before. Everybody feels stress at one time or another in their life. And so if you can sense that, and again, you're solving this bucket of pain for somebody, this is, again, the area where you want to dig, you want to play, because literally this is one that I know most every entrepreneur has. A lot of people know it by imposter syndrome. That's that fear of worthlessness, the fear of, hey, I'm not bringing enough to the table. I'm not feeling like I'm good enough. My product or service is in that place where it's like, I don't know if it can deliver. If you have any of those fears, in fact, if you're speaking with a prospect that may have any of those fears and you're teaching the mindset side of things, this area will crush for you. I promise you. And then the last area that you may want to talk about again is just a lack of motivation. People have big dreams, big goals, and aspirations to do big things in their world. And if you say they say these things, but then their actions don't back it up, again, this is another place where you can dig again, especially if you're coaching into the mindset space or something like that. This one hits on the cognitive bias of fear of extinction. Nobody, it's the thought of, why does it matter? We're just, spinning around on this big rock in the middle of the universe and whatever. It's just, we're going to be here and gone. And that's kind of where that lack of motivation comes from. So again, personal pain, if you're digging in here, poor attitude is one thing you want to talk about. High stress is another area. And then lack of motivation. And these three buckets. So you've got personal pain, you've got strategic pain, which we talked about. And then you've also got here this financial pain. And so when you can speak about these with your prospect, what's going to happen is you'll get to a place where you can actually start to dig into pain. And this is what Ron is asking about. So once you've discovered a business indicator, like, hey, what are you worried about? What are you struggling with? What are you frustrated by? What are you annoyed because of? Why are you pissed off? Like, these trigger emotion words are the things that I always start. And now if you're in a conversation and you're like, Sean, how do I even get into that place? There's two questions I usually use. So the first one, this super, listen closely here because this is so valuable, right? The first question I use is say, hey, I love what you're doing. I stand behind your movement. Where are you trying to take it? Where are you trying to go? Where is the flag that you're trying to plant on the top of which hill? Tell me about that. And all of a sudden now they get into this aspiration and dreaming and where they want to see their business to go. And then the very sexy next question you ask them is, what's the biggest speed bump that's holding you back right now? And literally just from those two questions in a conversation, you can pull out, is it going to be financial pain? Is it going to be strategic pain? Or is it going to be personal pain? And depending on which one it is, you'll know oh my gosh, Sean, you just shared the exact three things that I need to talk about when it comes to personal pain or strategic pain. And now you have a conversation that's literally going to mean something not only to you, but also to your prospect, because you can give them clarity on the fact that they have that issue or that problem, and then they know that you can solve it. Because here's what Alex Sharfin once told me. He said this, and he said it so nicely. He said, Sean, the person that can describe the problem that they solve the best, meaning in the most simple form where you say maybe one sentence and they instantly know what it is that you do and how you do it, it's going to immediately create a neurotransmission or a signal that goes through your prospect's brain that says, if that guy can describe that problem that well, he definitely probably has the solution to that problem. And it's a true statement, and it happens every single time. And so today, what I wanted to focus on is really kind of the three main buckets of pain that most prospects always fall into, and then how to start digging into it. Because once you are aware of which bucket of pain you need to play in, then you'll know what questioning techniques, what strategies you need to go and use to dig into those certain areas. And when you can take that individual pain, again, there's three levels. It goes business indicator, drops into business impact, and then it drops into personal impact. And when you can get somebody to personal impact, literally you will close a deal nearly every single time. I hope that helped you today, Ron. I know that was just a doozy of a question. If this was valuable for you, please smash that like button. Make sure and subscribe. And I look forward so much to seeing you tomorrow.